Alright, YouTube, we're back, of course, talking some NieR, something we don't talk about super often on the channel. This year is the 15th anniversary of the NieR series, franchise, whatever we're going to call it. It's kind of older than that, technically, because it is attached to Drakengard. And people are kind of hopeful for something this year, whether that's like a new game, ports, remasters, remakes, whatever that might be. And it seems like we might actually be getting something potentially for NieR Reincarnation. NieR Reincarnation being one of Square Enix's many attempts at cashing in on the mobile market or whatever, but it was a relatively successful mobile game. It did last like roughly 3 years, came out in 2021, and it shut down service exactly a year ago today, which is kind of insane. April 29th, 2024. Now, this was a mobile game I didn't actually get into at all. I never even had played the NieR games. I played a little bit of Drakengard back in the day, and I didn't even like play Automata until like last year, I believe. So by the time I was getting around to being interested in the series, this game had already shut down service. So anyways, what we have here is with the Japanese Square Enix website, they're like slowly releasing bits of a special novel, I think, in regards to like the anniversary for NieR or whatever. And with a recent chapter, I think chapter 4, we need to bottom of the page, it shows this: warning, recovery protocol initialized, error, redirecting to backup node. And then it shows the official Japanese website URL for NieR Reincarnation. Info, analysis, comments added to the source code. Fatal process forcibly halted. Also, if you right click on the page and then view page source, there's other like teases where it talks about, it gives a URL link as well, but it mentions like Toto, Fix Me Hack, Him, Her, The Cage, which is all stuff from the mobile game. Obviously, I don't know what it references exactly because I didn't play that shit. I don't know the lore of it. But they're clearly trying to tease something with Reincarnation. It seems like what people are hoping for is them to give us some sort of like single player version of the game, right? Because obviously the game was taken offline, a year ago exactly today. And people want, I guess, the lore that's there, because obviously now that you can't play the game, whatever the lore is there is like no longer available, right? So the best way you could do that is giving us some sort of like single player offline version, right? Whether that's on like Steam or Steam and consoles or something. I don't know exactly the route they would go. Which that is one of like the worst things about like an online only game or a mobile game or whatever the fuck. Like it adds like lore story to another game. Like once it goes offline, like it's gone forever, right? Unless a fan preserves it somehow for like online emulation or some shit, or if they themselves preserve it and like re-release it at a later point or whatever the fuck. If not, we're dealing with like lost media, right? So like you definitely want for just the preservation alone of like the story and lore they gave with Reincarnation. It would be nice for them to re-release the game in some sort of capacity where it can still be played and enjoyed. Now, it is possible that there is some like lore aspects to this as to why they're doing this, not just them wanting to like revive the game or something like that. I think it's a bit of a reach, but we'll read the comment really quickly from Reddit. So this person says, lore-wise, the cage was disconnected from the Earth and was stated by the pods they would reconnect it in the future. This is probably what they mean involving the story. And why I say I think it's a bit of a reach is that I don't think that they plan on the game dying or going away, right? Like, if the game could still be going now, I'm sure they'd want to be making money from it still, right? And maybe I don't know when the info came out about the cage and the lore and all that other shit in the game itself, but maybe they knew the writing was on the wall and the game was going to die eventually, so this was them kind of like maybe teasing something potentially, but it's like, they're also showing like the URL for the Japanese website for NieR Reincarnation. I don't see what good would that website be if it's a dead game, right? Like if they're showing the URL for the website, like they're going to do something with the website at some point, I would think. If anything, I feel like the lore regarding the cage being reconnected in the future would be something they'd do like a follow-up on with like the next NieR game, right? Like maybe that's where they bring in like the Reincarnation lore and the cage makes a comeback in that next big game, whatever it might be, right? I don't think it's like them teasing some sort of like special novel coming out a year later down the road or whatever the fuck, right? I could be totally wrong on that. I'm just kind of giving my thoughts on what I think is kind of going on here. They're obviously gearing up for something. It's got to be more interesting than just them like teasing a novel down the road, right? Like it's got to be, they're doing something with Reincarnation, with the website at some point. This person also mentioned it's also possible they take the route of a game like Mega Man X Dive and release the game to Steam with purely earnable elements in-game, so it's a single upfront purchase with no gacha, gets the money and preserves the story. I'm assuming this is what most people want, right? Like a single purchase and you just kind of get access to everything, you just got to earn it through the game through playing or whatever. I don't think anybody wants like Reincarnation just to make a comeback on like consoles and Steam or whatever, and it's just a gacha game again with a bunch of microtransactions. Like that's not super interesting to me. Hopefully if this is something they are doing with NieR Reincarnation, it's something that is successful to a certain degree, to where Square Enix does this in the future with other games. Like I know people wanted them to preserve Dissidia Opera Omnia and also Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which is the mobile game that I have played for Square Enix mobile games that went offline very recently, and as far as I know, they're not doing anything with those, which sucks because there's a lot of interesting story and lore and fun gameplay aspects to those games, and they're just kind of lost forever unless a fan preserved them or something. I don't know. Bringing it back to a little bit of FF7 related stuff, like that's what people wanted for the First Soldier mobile only battle royale game, right? Like nobody wanted that to only be on mobile phones, and once it was like on its way out and about to be shut down, people wanted them to bring it to console, right? Which would have been far more successful. A mobile only battle royale is just fucking stupid to me. I don't know why they did that shit. If it was a free to play battle royale on console and on Steam and shit, and have microtransactions to make them some money. Like, I think it'd have lasted longer. It'd probably still be going. I'm not saying it'd be competing with Fortnite and Warzone and whatever the fuck, but it'd probably still be going if it was on actual consoles and shit. It seems to be a lesson they kind of learned with Ever Crisis, you know, bringing it to other platforms or whatever, because they brought that to PC relatively quickly and not just leaving it, you know, stuck on mobile phones or whatever the fuck. So hopefully it's something they can do with Ever Crisis eventually too, because I imagine that game's not going to last forever. And I think there's a report that came out not too long ago that it's not like necessarily making them a ton of money, but you know, eventually that game will probably die off, as does a lot of the fucking Square Enix mobile games. But hopefully they can find a way to preserve it. Like if this NieR Reincarnation thing is what's happening and they're bringing it to consoles or some sort of re-release or whatever the fuck, maybe they do that sometime down the road with Ever Crisis, because there's of course some pretty interesting lore there with the First Soldier story. So regardless of whatever this is, we'll definitely like do a follow-up at some point if there is a payoff. Hopefully it is a re-release of, you know, NieR Reincarnation, the way they can preserve that, you know, story and lore there in some capacity. Some people are pretty skeptical on what it is. Some people think it's kind of weird that maybe they're, you know, just a year later they're going to re-release the game after it shut down or something, which is kind of strange, I'll give you that. But they're obviously doing something with the game, the story there, the lore, the website. Something's happening with Reincarnation. So definitely looking forward to something new from the NieR franchise. I need to go back and play Replicant at some point, and then maybe some of the earlier games like Drakengard, maybe even the first NieR. I know Replicant's like a remake of the first NieR, but it's like a different story or something, isn't it? It's kind of a weird situation, but I do want to go back and, you know, visit some of the other games at some point. But I'm also looking forward to the future for the NieR series, because I really loved Automata, or Automata, however the fuck you say that shit. That's pretty much the video, my dudes. Of course, pass off to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? There's obviously some sort of movement happening with NieR Reincarnation. My cat is throwing up. What the fuck? That might be a fucking bad omen. My cat's throwing up as we're talking about whatever this might be. I don't know. Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to have you guys new source works in the description below. If I'm with her, -YT, that's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain or leave it like Cobain.